Great. Well, so good to have so many of you on the call. I think we've got everybody in right now. And so if you want to get started, we're all good, Kurt.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for taking the time to join us today. We're very fortunate to have folks from Elgin Community College and Parkland College to speak to us about their pre-apprenticeship programs. And so welcome to the July 10th Apprenticeship Virtual Learning Community. So we'll start off with presentations from Elgin and then go to Parkland, and we'll save at least 15 minutes at the end for questions and discussion. And then we'll give a brief preview at the future learning communities that we have planned for the rest of through December. And I'll hand it right off to Elgin.
Thank you.
So Elise, can I introduce interrupt?
Yes.
So on that link, it said, please put your names and institutions in the chat. If you can please do that, and that just helps us make sure we know who's here. So, okay, go Elise.
Thank you. And I'm in the dark because yesterday I went to Migraine Town and I'm still a little fuzzy. Yeah. So the light's going to be off, but we're not here to see my face anyway. And if I sound like I'm a little fuzzy, I'm still kind of in that hangover stage, but we soldier on. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So ECC has, we instituted pre-apprenticeships last summer. It was before I even was in this department at the college. And the goal was, we kind of looked at, well, they kind of looked at the different pre-apprenticeship definitions, because there really isn't one solid cohesive one. Like the Department of Labor has a definition. WIOA has a definition. Apprenticeship Illinois has a definition. They're all pretty similar, but they kind of have some different components. So we kind of looked at all these different definitions and took what we thought was going to be most relevant to our population and provide the best pathway to an apprenticeship for our population. So what's on the screen now is kind of our collaboration of the different components. So we looked, when it says all three answers, that's the three other organizations I talked about a minute ago. So our core elements for our pre-apprenticeships are that they are short-term, so 5 to 7 days. They lead to a registered apprenticeship program. So there's a pathway that interested individuals, qualified individuals can get into an apprenticeship program if they want. That they are earning at least one industry recognized credential, because even if they end up not in an apprenticeship, they've at least got something that they can then take into a new career. Career exploration, better understandings of the pathways. So we'll talk a little bit later about our two programs, but we have manufacturing and healthcare right now. So part of that pre-apprenticeship is career exploration. What is a career in manufacturing? What is an apprenticeship? We really define that system for these individuals, because a lot of them are unemployed, underemployed, out of school, have probably never heard of an apprenticeship before, or think it's, being a union plumber. So we talk a lot about the different paths that you can take in a manufacturing career. It's not just on the floor. You could go into quality assurance, you could go into production, you could go into, whatever. There's also a component on employability skills. So those soft skills, communication, conflict resolution. Again, for some individuals, maybe they've never really been in a professional workspace before. So how to communicate with a supervisor, how to communicate with your coworkers. There's some team building, some role play. It's meant to be not just 40 hours of someone talking at them. There's interactive stuff that kind of help bolster some of those skills. And then at the end of the pre-apprenticeship, all the successful completers are invited to a resume workshop. So we sit with them, and if they have a resume, we help them update it. If they don't have a resume, we help them create it and tailor it to the types of careers they're looking for. So if they have a resume, but they were, in the past in a different field, we help them kind of tailor their resume to become something different. And then we arrange interviews with apprentice hiring employers or employers who are looking to hire entry-level workers in that field. You can go to the next slide. So one thing that we think is important to note is that we are not doing this by ourselves here at the college. This is a group effort. So within the Workforce Development Division, we have our continuing education. So that's the non-credit side. They're the ones building the classes. They're the ones getting the 1.6 approval and handling enrollment. Outside of our division, CTE, our career and technical divisions, they help build the curriculum. So the career exploration part, they provide the tours, as well as share the program with any of their students who may be interested in completing the pre-apprenticeship. So we involve our faculty in these areas. They're the ones usually giving the tours of either the manufacturing labs or the healthcare classrooms. And that gives people a chance to talk to practitioners of the field that they're looking to get into. So SPEL, that's my department, Strategic Partnerships and Experiential Learning. So our apprenticeship coordinators do the recruitment of individuals, which we'll get into later, and determine suitability of the enrollees. So we make sure before we enroll them in the pre-apprenticeship that this is what they want to do, that they understand what they're committing to, and that they are suitable for this career. Our WIOA team helps with recruiting and provides barrier support to those who need it. So everyone that comes into the pre-apprenticeship fills out a barrier assessment for us. And then we can refer them to other services if needed. Our marketing department helps us with marketing, flyers, things like that, social media posts. They boost our posts for us. We have connected with our adult education division here at the college. That helps with recruiting and outreach because a lot of their individuals who are ready to bridge out of ESL classes into college classes are good candidates for this because they're looking for careers as well. Our Small Business Development Center tells employers about the program, and then our foundation
How are you?
shares our successes with employers and helps us connect with other employers that may be interested in participating in the interview portion. We can go next slide. So this pretty little wheel comes from the Department of Labor. So, it's just kind of illustrates that while pre-apprenticeship programs have different designs and approaches, the elements of a quality pre-apprenticeship program are the same no matter what the actual tactics you're using. So, we have the approved curriculum, we have simulated experiences, increased diversity. We're reaching out to a lot of those underrepresented groups to try to get them interested in these career paths, providing supportive services, creating sustainable partnerships, that's with the employers and even with the faculty, and then facilitated entry. We are helping people every step of the way. It's not just, fill out this form and then you'll be enrolled. They come in, we do intensive meetings with them, we walk them through all the paperwork so that we don't have people who hit a barrier in trying to just register and aren't able to do it. We make sure that they have entry into the program. Next. So this presentation was whittled down from a presentation we gave a couple weeks ago to the NIWIT group. And so here's where we talked about all our different pre-apprenticeships. For the sake of time today, I'm just going to go through the manufacturing one because that was the first one we built. It's been a pretty successful one. And then I'll talk a little bit about the other ones that we have and some challenges and wins there. So we'll just go through. We call it 7 days to career success because it's a manageable commitment for most people. They are full days, so it's 8 to 4:30 for 4 to 5 days for the actual training, and then 2 days on the other end for the resume workshop and the interview day. There's short-term relevant credentials, so they're walking away with a certificate in something that they can take to an employer and say, I certified in this. That industry exposure, some sample classroom learning. We kind of talk about, okay, this is what it looks to work in this field. This is what the curriculum and the classes are going to be like so that they're prepared, because part of the apprenticeship would be enrolling in an ECC program. Again, those general communication skills, soft skills, that's what we hear employers say over and over and over is a lot of their workers coming in just don't, they're great technical skills, but they just don't seem to have some of those soft communication skills. So we're giving them some exposure to that. And then the resume writing, job interview prep, and then the employer interviews. So 7 days, they go from nothing to a credential. No, you're fine. Go ahead. Keep going. So it takes a village to recruit these pre-apprentices. You know, we want to make sure that we're getting the word out as much as humanly possible. So our recruitment is pretty intensive. We usually start recruiting about 6 to 8 weeks before the pre-apprenticeship will start. The first step is information sessions. So we have these flyers, we share them with external partners, LWIPs, unemployment offices, local libraries, chambers, employers. We connect with the WIOA staff to see if they're working with any clients that might be eligible to come over and participate in the pre-apprenticeship. We have individuals who are constantly, you know, contacting the college because they're interested in a manufacturing apprenticeship. And so we say, hey, this is a great way for you to start, is to participate in this pre-apprenticeship. And then social media, we do boosted posts. Those actually have yielded a pretty good turnout for individuals in our area. And then we have on-campus flyers, and we table at various either community events, on-campus events, kind of anywhere someone will let us sit at a table for a little while. We're there with flyers to promote these sessions. So then they just fill out an online form to sign up for an information session. That's the first step. And then like we hold our sessions twice a week for 6 to 8 weeks out. Go ahead. So, like I said, the first step is the mandatory information session. So we bring them, they're coming to campus, I believe, 3 times before they're even starting the pre-apprenticeship. And part of that is to help make sure they understand the commitment, to make sure they're prepared, to make sure they're eligible, to make sure they're interested in that this is what they want to do. So the first information session, we talk about apprenticeship basics. So we start with, again, what is an apprenticeship? What does that look like? You know, we explain to them about the industry, how manufacturing is evolving, because a lot of people still have that view of manufacturing as being like, you know, coal miners. It's dark, dirty, dingy manufacturing facilities where you're on your feet for 12 hours. So we explain to them, we show them pictures from some of our current manufacturing partners, what their floors look like, that they're clean, they're high tech, they're really good paying jobs, so that we can kind of help expose them to the potentials there. We go through what to expect from the pre-apprenticeship. You know, we emphasize the time commitment. We emphasize that you have to show up to everything. You can't just come for one day to get the one certificate you want. You do have to come to all the sessions to be a successful participant. We outline each of those sessions so that they know what to expect, and we'll go through an outline later in the presentation. We talk about their responsibilities, you know, dress code, things like that. The minimum requirements. So for our manufacturing pre-apprenticeship, the minimum requirements are 18 or older, and that's an OSHA rule. For forklift, they have to be 18 or older. Illinois resident, legally able to work in the US. And then we worked with our adult ed division to determine that ESL level 5 is what is recommended, because all the classes are in English, all the exams are in English, and so students have to be comfortable learning and taking tests in English in order to be successful. And then we register them. The info session is not set up as a non-credit class, so we do register them for this info session. That allows them to get a student ID from ECC and allows them to access the other services on campus. So if they're going to be in the pre-apprenticeship program, we want to make sure that they can also be accessing other services on campus. So then step 2 is in-person registration. So these are the one-on-one meetings with our apprenticeship coordinators. So during these meetings, the conversation is about the students' goals, career interests, again, confirming it's the right fit for them. They fill out a bunch of paperwork. We all love paperwork. But that barrier assessment, like I said, is the piece that lets us determine if they would qualify potentially for WIOA services. So if they do mark any of those automatic qualifiers, we'll also refer them over to WIOA to make sure that there's if there's services over there that they could be getting as well. And then we get them into the Illinois WorkNet system. So we take them through that DCEO eligibility piece that's in there and make sure that we have their form at the end that says that they are eligible for these this program. So again, this one-on-one meeting allows students to ask questions. A lot of times in info sessions, nobody has any questions, and then they come in and they have 50 questions, which we love. You know, we want to make sure that they understand, and that, you know, again, emphasizing full day instruction. There's no makeup dates. If you miss, then there's no way to get that made up, that it is that commitment. Next. So then the third meeting is the orientation session. So during those 6 to 8 weeks that we're holding info sessions, we're also doing the one-on-one intake meetings. So if they come to an early info session, we try to schedule those intake meetings within a week of the information session. The orientation session is usually held the week before the program starts. So that's where we're going to have everybody who is registered, they are taking it. We offer 2 different sessions, an AM and a PM, because we know people's schedules just depends on when they can come. But orientation kind of goes deeper into each day's activities so that they know exactly what to expect each day. We remind them about classroom rules, attendance rules, dress code. You know, I've heard stories of students showing up for the forklift class in flip-flops. And so we have to talk about, you know, can't wear flip-flops to forklift class. And if they need to bring anything to class. And then we also provide, so with ECC, we have the Center for Emergency Services campus in Burlington, and that's where the forklift training takes place. So it is about a 20-minute drive from ECC. So we do provide transportation if students need it. They can sign up to take the van out to the training, or if they want to drive themselves, that's an option as well. So we make sure that there's nothing that would prevent a student from completing that portion. Next. So now we'll go through the training outline. This will also include the certificates that they're earning. And when we set these up, the days are kind of interchangeable. Sometimes forklift is day 1, sometimes it's day 4. It depends on when the instructors are available, when the classrooms are available. But the content of each day is always the same. So on forklift day, like I said, it's held out at ECC's Center for Emergency Services. These are taught by an external instructor. So CE has, you know, their contracted vendor instructors. So that's where we hire for those. The full day class covers their safety, instruction, their exam. And at the end of that day, they have their ECC forklift operator certification. So that's one credential right there, is their forklift operator. Go ahead. Days 2 and 3 are the OSHA training. So the other certificate that they earn in manufacturing is their OSHA 10 card. So that's a 2-day course, again, taught by an external instructor. They get the introduction, the PPE, hazmat on day 1. Day 2, they go into some of that other industry specific stuff, ergonomics, lockout, tagout. And then they take their test. And then at the end of day 3, they have another certificate. They have their OSHA 10 card, which is really valuable for manufacturing employees. Oh, back one, please. We skipped. There we go. Nope. Sorry. I'm trying to do, I have my mouse in my hand and I keep trying to click it myself. So I'll stop doing that. Day 4 is what we call Manufacturing 101. So this is the class that's taught by our faculty, it's not necessarily someone who teaches industrial maintenance technology. It might be one of our welding instructors or our HVAC instructors, someone who has the knowledge of the industry that they can go through the class. But that's where they really get into what is manufacturing, what are the different pathways, what are the different components of a manufacturing career, what are the types of jobs and trainings that are available in the manufacturing industry. And then they also get a tour of ECC's facility. So they walk them through and they actually get to put their hands on these machines. They, you know, turn them on, turn them off. get an explanation of what the tools of their trade will be if they continue to pursue this career. So that's usually a really good opportunity for them to ask a lot of questions, because then they're talking, we always say they're speaking the same language as our faculty. Our faculty will say something and I have no idea what that means, but someone who's in the manufacturing realm understands those terms, the short codes for certain machinery, things like that. So it's a really good opportunity for them to kind of immerse in manufacturing. We do give them a little certificate that says they completed ECC's Manufacturing 101 class. That's not an industry recognized credential, but it's still another piece that they can walk away with. And then faculty also talks about workplace readiness, going to work on time, dress code, time management. You can't have your phone on manufacturing floors, going through a lot of that, just how to be professional in that environment. And then the workplace communication, again, verbal, nonverbal, how do you call in sick? How do you report things? How do you, navigate the hierarchy at a manufacturing facility? Day 5 in manufacturing is an additional forklift class if needed. So the limit is 8 students per class. So if we have a bigger class, then we have to have 2 forklift days. So that's that. And then, like we said, day 6, all individuals who successfully complete the training are invited to the resume workshop. That's led by my team. We take turns, again, updating current resumes with new credentials, creating a new resume using a template, tailoring it to the industry specific. And then we do some mock interview stuff, just talking about interview best practices, typical questions, common questions, how to answer the dreaded, what's your weakness? Things like that. So just trying to prepare them as best we can for the interviews that will happen the next day. So the last day is always our interview day. So we invite ECC employer partners who either have apprenticeship positions open, or maybe they just have entry-level manufacturing or jobs open that could become apprenticeships. So we have some employers who they don't have apprentices with us yet, but we kind of see this as a pathway to having that conversation with them. It's like, hey, we can provide you with these great entry-level workers, and then let's talk about how to get them to the next level. Maybe that's an apprenticeship. We do them round robin style. We used to do a few times we did them as full interviews, like 30 minutes per person, but that was just taking way too long, and we didn't feel that that was the right way to use that time. So we've been doing it round robin style, with each candidate getting 10 to 15 minutes to speak with employers. So it's kind of a screening interview. It gives them that first chance to talk to the employer, ask questions, do the little interview, and then if the employer identifies, maybe 5 candidates they think have strong potential, they will then invite them to come and do a more in-depth interview at their site. So that's just a way that we created to help the day go a little faster. And we encourage candidates to speak with all the employers, even if they aren't necessarily interested in what that particular employer is offering. It's still a great practice for interview skills. So like I said, this one was first debuted, I think, last May or maybe last June. So before my time. But they experimented, with the modalities. The first attempt, they had, everything week 1, and then the interviews and resumes week 2, and they saw that had really good student momentum. The second try, they decided to try every Monday for a month, and then resume and interviews after that. That was not great. So the staff recommends not doing that. They lost a lot of people along the way there with spreading it out so far. It seems like the all at once in 1 week was the best one. Resume interview days, they did both same day and split days. We went back to split days simply to give us more time, because we found with the resume workshops, if we had that scheduled for 2 hours and then the employers were coming in, we were still trying to finish up resumes as employers were showing up. So we said, nope, we're just going to continue to make that 2 separate days. And then that way we have enough time to spend with them on the resumes, and then we're not rushing or making employers wait for the interviews. Next. So what has worked? We've had well, now we've had 6 cohorts, ranging from 6 to 16 students. We offer multiple options to maximize availability. 97% of our students stayed engaged throughout the entire training portion. A big chunk of those that dropped out were in that modality where it was once a week for several weeks. The ones where we were doing it all in 1 week, I think we've only had 1 student that had to withdraw for an illness. The reviews from the students are pretty much 5-star about the value of the experience, and we've had 10 employers come through to conduct interviews. We've had, let's see, I think 3 have been hired into apprenticeships. 1 was hired by a company, not into an apprenticeship, but into an engineering job because he was really qualified. And then we've had, I think, 2 or 3 others get hired into entry-level jobs that could, again, potentially turn into apprentices in the future. The challenges of the structure we have with multiple instructors, some external, some internal. The pros are we have some flexibility in scheduling. The difficulty can be in getting everybody to come in on a day that works for them. All the instructors can't be in on one day and no one on the next day. So that can be a bit challenging. We do have students that come in, they register, and then they just don't show up for day 1. So we're trying to figure out how to fix that. Not all students will show for the interview day despite passing the classroom material. Again, we emphasize that even if you aren't necessarily looking for this job or an apprenticeship, again, it's good to get that interview practice. We have everyday student challenges, transportation, accessibility. That's why with the Burlington one, we have the van that goes out there because most students can get to ECC on the bus if needed, but that's why we try to hold them here instead of at other places. Student readiness, they do have to either have that ESL level and they have to have their GED. So we have a lot of people that come to information sessions that are not at the right level, but we just refer them back over to ECC's adult education to try to help them hit those milestones first. And then the cost, it's about $3,000 per program, depending on the instructors that we hire. And I'll talk about funding a little bit further down too. Real quick, just the replication for healthcare. We created a healthcare one that we launched in May. Same core components. They earn 5 credentials: mental health, first aid, OSHA, BLS, CPR, first aid, and bloodborne pathogens. So again, same setup, 5 days, 5 credentials, and then they're interviewing with companies that are seeking CNA apprentices. That's the apprenticeship we have here at ECC. Next. So I'll go through this just pretty quick. This was kind of how they set it up at the beginning. They kind of did a door-to-door sales tour with partners to kind of explain what we wanted to do, that this would serve unemployed, justice impacted, low income, undecided populations with barriers. It gives them that career exploration. They're going to learn that industry lingo and, again, those soft skills. So we were kind of just letting our partners know that this was our plan before we launched it. Go ahead. So, the partners noted that this checked all their boxes when it came to a quality program. So then we said, okay, this is what we're going to do for pre-apprenticeship. So it's going to be something that they're going to earn certificates. They're going to get interviews with employers and the credentialing. So, when we explained the whole package, our partners were really excited and interested in what we were doing. Go ahead. So all we asked of our partners was just to promote the programs, share on social media, direct refer their clients, share the program with other agencies or other employers. Below is a list of external partners that Gina had assembled at the beginning. So we always, we're sending our flyers out to these groups when we're having a pre-apprenticeship and having them help us advertise and recruit by just sharing it with any of their clients that may be interested in it. So again, it takes a village. So it does come with a cost. The sustainable funding plan is key. The first go round was our current pre-apprentices are being funded with our DCEO apprenticeship expansion grant. That ends in October, and so we've written some new grants to get the funding to do some additional pre-apprenticeship programs. So we write it into almost all of our grants that are related to training and workforce development. And then our backup plan is the foundation or institutional funds, should it come to that, but so far we've been able to fund all of our pre-apprenticeships through grant dollars. So our future expansion plans, we wrote a particular grant to be able to offer the manufacturing pre-apprenticeship in Spanish, because a lot of manufacturing employers don't have an ESL requirement. And so we can do forklift and OSHA and those things in Spanish. We're also looking to offer our pre-apprenticeships off-site. We've actually been working with Kane County Sheriff's Department to figure out how to do a pre-apprenticeship at their facility with individuals who are about ready to re-enter the workforce, because then they could do the training there, and then we'll get them interviews with employers that we know are justice impacted friendly, and hopefully get them into an apprenticeship program or at least a job before they right when they're ready to re-enter. We're going to look at new topics. We've tried IT. That was kind of a disaster. We're slowly building a construction one, but we're always looking at what else could we turn into a pre-apprenticeship. And then we'd like to have some additional components to involve employers, like maybe a facility, like a field trip to one of the facilities to actually see stuff in action. So that is ours in a nutshell, and I went a little over time, and I apologize. I tried to cut out as much as I could.
Do you want us to wait to ask questions?
That's up to you.
It's up to Danielle or Angela.
I would say yes, hold on, just so we
Okay.
make sure that we can hear
Got it.
everything.
Got it. Okay.
that Amy
No
has to
problem.
say. And since we've got time slotted at the end for questions, or
Okay.
the other option is you can type them into chat as well.
Yeah.
If you want.
That's fine. Okay, thank you.
Well, we'll hand it over to Parkland.
Good morning. You can hear me okay? I have a different audio setup today. Thank you. So I'll be fairly quick, so there should be plenty of time for questions. Parkland is one of 14 community colleges in Illinois that offers the Highway Construction Careers Training Program through the Illinois Department of Transportation, or IDOT. This is not a program that I work with daily, but I do make a number of referrals to this program. Typically individuals who call and want to get in a skilled trades union and have no idea where to start. They don't know what union they're interested in. This is a really great option for them. Or they call and want to get into some kind of CTE program, but even a full semester, much less a certificate or something like that. So I tend to refer those folks over to Highway Construction Program. So next slide, please.
Amy, I'm so sorry to interrupt. It's sounding a little echoey for your audio, and I'm having a hard time hearing. I think a few other people have dropped in the chat that they're having a hard time hearing the audio.
Let me see if my headset will work. That's been my issue.
Is this better?
Oh, yeah.
Way better. Thank you so much.
Okay, now Amy, we lost
And then we
everything.
lost you, Amy. We heard you and then it went away.
Okay, it's back to this one, unfortunately. Still fuzzy.
Yep.
Well,
It seemed to get, on my end, it seemed to get a little bit better as you went along.
okay.
I don't know.
I'm going to switch my headset updated, so I'll switch back. Thank you all so much for your patience.
Nope. Can't hear you. Your lips are moving and there is no sound coming out.
We could go back briefly and take questions from Elgin if you'd like.
We can do that. So a question that I had for Elisa, just because I'll jump in real quick while everybody else is reformatting their questions.
Mhm.
Did you say, so was it the manufacturing that was 7 days and then the healthcare was 5 days? So you alter it by industry, or is it all 7? What did you say?
Yes, so the manufacturing one is 4 or 5 days of the classroom instruction. That 5th day is if we need 2 forklift days. And then the resume and workshop. So it's 6 to 7 days depending. Healthcare is 5 full days of classroom work. There's no optional day there, and then the 2 days. So that one is a full 7. So it's 5 days of instruction, and then 6 and 7 are the resume workshop and interviews.
Okay.
Elisa, I had a question. It's Levon.
Mhm.
So I noticed you talked about that this is for registered apprenticeships, but since ICCB doesn't say that, you know, if you're going to do apprenticeships with like our grant money or something like that, it has to
Mhm.
be registered. Are you
Right.
open to doing unregistered? Because a lot of employers will do unregistered.
Yep.
They don't want to do all the paperwork and that sort of thing. It's a good way to get your foot in the door.
Absolutely. We're having those internal conversations here now to figure out how we can bring in some non-registered apprenticeships for future groups. So that's definitely something. And like I said, even employers that aren't looking for apprentices, but maybe just some of those entry-level workers that these individuals would now be qualified to apply for. That's also a goal as well. It's just, getting them to
Sure.
that employment piece. But yep.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I wanted people to understand you can do unregistered or non-registered apprenticeships.
Yes.
You know, through the system at the community college.
I was going to ask if you could talk a little bit about any interface between this, the pre-apprenticeship program and then your WEI program, and if there's been any relationship there.
That would be a good Gina question. She wasn't able to be on the call today, but I can have her, I can't speak fluently about some of those relationships that were built and put in place before we took over.
Okay, because I wondered if that could also be like a potential like funding avenue
Yeah.
after the DCO grants.
Very well, could be.
Good question.
Anyone else?
Amy, were you able to get your situation fixed? The reason I ask is there are several colleges that offer the highway careers HCCTP program, pre-apprenticeship program around the state. And if Amy didn't have, I'm not trying to take it away from you at Parkland, Amy, but if you just wanted somebody to talk about the general program and then use your slides to show what you're doing at program, Julie Galati's on the call from Blackhawk. I know for sure she's one, and I think Val Harris has it from Lewis and Clark still. So if you needed help, there are a couple colleges that could talk about the program. Then you could have your slides up about what you do specifically about it at Parkland. It's just up to you. I'm just throwing that out since, you've got a new headphone system. It's your call.
Yeah, we can't hear you now. I have no idea what you just said.
She put in the chat that that's perfectly fine. So if somebody else
Okay.
speak to,
Okay,
Yeah.
Julie, do you want to
Yeah.
kick off and then Val,
Sure.
you don't have it anymore? Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I'd
Okay,
be happy to.
Julie, I'm putting you on the spot. Would you
Okay.
talk about it?
Yeah, no problem at all.
Okay,
Yeah, so the Highway Construction Careers Training Program is fully funded by the Illinois Department of Transportation. So it is a grant from them. The colleges that had been selected are ones that had a lot of IDOT projects going on. So most of us do 2 classes a year. There are some colleges closer to the Chicago area that do 3 classes a year, but As the slide indicates, you need to be 18 years old, valid driver's license, GED, pass a math and reading, and pass a drug screen. That is all set up that way because that is how our building trades do their intake. So we try to match it up as much as possible. These are all the same things that they're going to have to do when they go into any one of the building trades. So if there's another slide. So our programs look for 425 to 450 hours, depending on, I think that most of colleges run them the same. Blackhawk College, we run ours. It's a Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30 or 7 to 3:30 when they are doing their hands-on projects. So the first couple of weeks they are in the classroom and they're getting their first aid CPR, 10-hour OSHA, blueprint reading, a lot of construction math, life skills such as conflict resolution, finance, things like that. This year, IDOT did up the financial support to $15 per hour. The other key thing about this program is that contractors who are bidding on an IDOT job and that use an HCCTP graduate get a $15 an hour reimbursement on the wages of that HCCTP graduate while they're on an IDOT job. So that is a substantial benefit to the contractor. It ultimately lowers their bidding costs, which can help them get more contracts. So it really is a win all the way around. Go ahead. Is there a next slide? Okay. So again, because this is parallel to link up with the building trades, the colleges are very involved with the building trades in the form of advisory boards, ongoing communication. We rely on them to say, hey, you're spot on this, but on this, we need to see more of that so that we can tweak the program. Anybody can apply for the building trades, but the goal is that if you've got an HCCTP graduate and just somebody who hasn't gone through, it ups the chances of the HTP graduate getting in because of this 450 hours of training, as well as the stackable credentials of the OSHA first aid, CPR, flagger, scissor lift and boom, fork truck. So they come with credentials. You can see here some of the trades that have been involved with HCCTP. It's also like the sprinklers, the painters, the iron workers. So they very much have a vested interest in this because we're supplying a pipeline of people to them. They're very involved with HCCTP. Is there another slide? Okay, so here you can see this is related to the Champaign County, but the prevailing wage. So a huge aspect of this is that when a graduate gets hired onto one of these, they get a package. So within that package, there's money that goes on the check, there's money that goes in their pension plan, and there's money that goes into their medical. And you can see on the last column there, the length of the apprenticeship. So whether they're 3 years or 5 years, the apprenticeship is earning while they're learning along the way. So that first slide, as you see, they're getting 50% of a carpenter's hourly rate. So they're starting off at $20.05 that first year. And then each year of the apprenticeship, they earn more money. Now, we've had graduates that have started year one and they went ahead and paid them as a third-year apprentice. So they can always up their dollar amount, but it's a pretty substantial system when it comes to impact, that they're truly getting learning while they're earning, and that it's beneficial enough to whatever industry they were in before. In this case, they're being committed to construction. They're one of the few industries that still have a pension. So it is a significant impact on the participant. Next slide. All right, so HCCTP, not only do you get that $15 an hour financial support, but the grant also pays $350 per person to get their own tools. They're also purchased for them at no cost. They're getting steel-toe boots, and they're getting a lot of hands-on training. I know for us, whenever we do our hands-on portion of the class, it has to be with a nonprofit. So that nonprofit buys the materials, and the grant at the college supports all the labor and the workforce, and all paying for their wages to do the project. Next slide. Okay, so to get into the process, these are things that you have to do. You have to attend an orientation. That's mandatory. If you decide to pursue further, you can stay for the math and reading test, looking for about a 7th grade level. It looks like at Parkland, they schedule for an interview. We do too. We are surprised. Here's a schedule. You can send it for your interview. They come in and interview. If they pass the interview, we send them for the drug test. So the drug screening is very important prior to entry, because that is how the building trades do it. And then it looks like at Parkland, theirs is 4 to 5 months. So ours is 13 weeks. So we all run them a little bit differently, but the outcome is the same. To provide a very strong pipeline of candidates with which to get into the building trades. All right, next slide. So these are just some
Thank you, Julie.
questions that you can take a look at. So
Thanks, Julie, for helping Amy cover some of that. Amy, are you working again? Nope, still don't have any sound.
Is there anybody else that has the highway construction program that wants to chime in or throw anything out there? I can't see, unless I go into chat, I can't tell who's on there. It's a great program. It gives you some ideas of what you can do. If you wanted to duplicate this, I don't know if you could duplicate that stipend or not, but their intensity, I would say about this is the intensity of the program. And what I mean by that is adhering to the rules and requiring the students to follow them and to stay committed. I think that is a critical piece of this. And it's this program has been around for almost 10 years now, right?
we've been doing
Yeah.
it for 10 and a half, and I believe.
Yeah, it's been long. Yeah, it's been, because I'll throw something out there. I wrote the first grant, so, okay.
It was
So
12. I think it's been 12 years.
I think it is 12.
Yeah.
You're right, Val. Yeah. So, but there are things you can look at here that you might want to duplicate. You can follow up with Julie or Amy. I know they'd be happy to talk to you. This same intense format could be applied to other pre-apprenticeship other sectors for pre-apprenticeship, but it is an intense one specifically to get them into the building trade apprenticeship programs. So they are very targeted. Thanks, Julie, for filling in.
Yep, I would just.
Amy,
The
yeah,
very
go ahead.
key thing to any of this is to make sure that whatever you're doing, that it's designed with the expectation of the business and what they're looking
Yes.
for.
Yes. Yeah, I would say that that's true. That building trades, whatever you're doing, they do a really good job, all the colleges, of aligning, as Julie said, with that building trades council and adjusting to what they need for their apprentices. So, thank you.
Julie, thank you. I think you probably did a better job than I would have. I appreciate it. I've found yet another microphone on my laptop instead of my dock. I will just add that Parkland has built-in credit classes. So students complete 2 credit hours in basic welding, as well as 3 credit hours in intro to construction. And so those classes get them started if they want to continue in the basic construction skills certificate we offer, which is a credit side gateway towards skilled trades.
Good information. I didn't know that, Amy. I'm glad to know that. Yeah.
Thank you all for bearing with me. Appreciate it.
And I have a question for anybody with this program. Was there any challenges on the front end in the relationship working with the unions to align this program to their hiring cycles? Where my big question is, did they already have like waiting lists or like was there demand for more people to be trained to come in, or how did this kind of integrate with their existing hiring practices?
I can tell you for our particular area, it had a lot to do with the IDOT work that was being done in our area. So we had a new bridge built that was 25 years plus in the making, and they needed that manpower. And with the current market the way it is, there's just been such a shortage of skilled people. The other thing that HCCTP supports very strongly is it's advertised in the Department of Corrections.
Yes.
So a lot of times, depending on your conviction and your felony, there's a lot of places that you're not going to be allowed to go. But construction and laying a highway is a welcoming environment, and certainly of the other building trades as well. Now, I will tell you, when we first got this, we kind of met with the head in our area because there was a lot of skepticism because it's a duplication, and these building trades spend millions of dollars getting their curriculum approved with the Department of Labor, which supersedes a college's program. Doesn't matter how good it is, it's not, they're like, we're Department of Labor. So we met with them separately, and so that they could be in a room where they could speak freely, express their concerns, and we don't want this type of thing. But when we talked through it, they realized that we weren't competing with them, that we were truly providing a service to them in the form of applicants. There's no guarantee that the applicant will get in per se, but through meeting with them first and not just doing it and rolling it out, we kept them in the loop the whole time, and they really felt heard, and they knew that we were in it to support the community. It's not about us. It's not about, it's about the whole community. So with that, we've built strong relationships and camaraderie, transparency to, we're no threat to them, that it is a benefit to them.
Thank you, Julie. And I'll throw something in too, because this goes back so far. When I was working with IDOT to create this grant, and to get this all set up, part of it was that IDOT at the federal level, IDOT at the state level, I'll just share a little dirty laundry, but not really. But I mean, they were having equity issues.
Yes.
And so this was in response to help with equity issues. And so that was a part of why this was created in the first place, because the state IDOT was having problems with the feds in terms of equity. And so then, to Julie's point, one of the requirements of the grant was that every community college that had the grant must have a building trades advisory council. They had to have that. And that's what she's referring to. And I would suggest that for anybody that's doing a pre-apprenticeship or anything, for whatever your sector is, I think you need to have that alignment with an industry sector advisory council specific for this, whatever you're doing. I know you've got your career groups and everything that meet at the colleges, and employers come in, but this is specific to the highway construction. That building council is specific to the highway construction. So it'd be the same for any other sector you wanted to do. I would recommend something specific to the pre-apprentice or apprenticeship that you're doing. I'm done.
One thing if I could add something real quick that I didn't think about because we were still kind of test piloting it. One other thing that we did with our last round of manufacturing pre-apprentices is, so we had the IBHE grant for internships where we could pay for 100 hours of an internship. And we decided to pilot interns at apprenticeship sites who could then be hired as apprentices. And so with our last manufacturing one, we actually had a company that has an apprenticeship. They came out, they found a candidate that they thought had potential. And so we actually had them hire them as an intern for 100 hours. So he was getting, that paid work experience. And then at the end of the 100 hours, they said, yep, he's the right candidate for us. And so now he's moving into the apprenticeship program. So that's something going forward that we might continue to try to utilize is, start with an internship with the human, and then that helps them kind of know that it's the right fit. And then that way we have fewer students, hopefully, leaving their apprenticeship, because we get sometimes they get into it and they're like, I don't want to do this. But this way they kind of have had that little test drive before fully committing to the apprenticeship model.
Hey, Alyssa, this is Julie. I just wanted to ask a question.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that you guys are able to find some internships. We've been finding, at least in our area, that a lot of companies aren't doing them anymore. We've just been, kind of here and there asking if they do it. And I don't know why. I don't know if it was just an outcome of COVID or what, but I'm here with Madison too. And it's just been kind of interesting that some of these companies just like, no, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
So, has anybody else run into that? And
we haven't yet, but again, we had that grant and we're still waiting to hear if we're going to get it for FY25, fingers crossed. That really helped a lot of times, because when I went to a company and said, hey, I can give you a human for 100 hours and we're paying for it, they were kind of like, oh yeah, okay, we can make that work.
okay.
The challenge will be, if we don't have the grant again, finding places that will take them and will pay them, because we don't really encourage unpaid internships. So that could become a challenge for us without that nice little carrot that we had previously. And yeah, some companies are just not that, they say they don't have the capacity to take an intern, things like that. And,
or the intern isn't able to do what they
right. They expect a higher
doing,
level of ability from an intern.
or they're having them file or things
Yeah.
like that, as opposed to.
Yeah, we do a lot of screening with our companies and make sure, that they have learning objectives that are, skill-based and useful, and not just, and if we send an intern out and they report back to us, yeah, they've just been having me do this, then we might not send interns to that company anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Alyssa, I'm sorry if I missed this, but what was the grant that you have for paying for internships?
It was, I think it's IBHE, but it has like 6 different acronyms. And so we had the one for FY24, we reapplied for the one for FY25, and last we heard they had a lot of applications and we're behind in reviewing, but we're hoping that means it's still, so we got, our last grant was 50,000. And so we placed about 28 interns throughout the year.
Great.
Where we actually have 2 interns that were hired into apprentices, but only one came through the pre-apprenticeship program.
And so what you're saying, the Illinois Board of Higher Ed, it came through that. Okay, for those of you that might not know, yeah.
And I think it's like the Illinois Cooperative Work Study Grant is like the name of it. I'm still learning all my acronyms.
Yeah, I get it.
Well, we know that we are a little bit over time, and so just want to quickly wrap up with thanking our presenters today and our speakers for sharing their expertise and all this information and best practices. I think this is great conversation, and certainly want to see this continuing offline and at future meetings. This format moving forward for at least the next year, our hope is that we will be able to focus on a specific industry when we get together. And so really having less of a formal presentation, but more opportunity for conversation like we had at the end of our call today, to really talk about what are the occupations that you're seeing what are some of the challenges and the barriers. And so you can see here the list that we have proposed. This is tentative. So if you have ideas or suggestions of maybe another area that you want to see incorporated, if you feel like you have some expertise around one of these areas, please let any one of us know who's involved with the work group. And we'd love to get you on board to help facilitate the conversation. But we're really looking forward to our sessions moving forward of being these open dialogues and an opportunity for us to talk about a specific industry. So we look.
Sorry, Danielle.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, thank you, Danielle, for all the work you do on that too. And then, so just so you know, those of you that haven't been on these calls before, ICCB has an ICCB apprenticeship work group made up of a few of the colleges geographically located across the state. And so that's, are you guys all listed in there already?
We were at the beginning of this.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I didn't see the beginnings. I'm sorry. Okay, so that's what she's talking about. That's the group that puts all this work together. We all work together to do this. And don't hesitate to come to any of these, even though it's not your area of expertise, because you can learn something that you can apply to your area. Or if you're interested in creating apprenticeships, et cetera, in a particular one, then you want to visit that learning community. So if you're not on our listserv and you want to be, and you got this through another way, let Angela know, Angela Gerberding, and we'll get you onto our apprenticeship listserv.
Great. Thank you, Levon. Well, thanks everyone for joining. If anybody who's on has any updates to share, I know Parkland last time said, I think they've created a new office. If anybody else has updates they want to provide to the group, we'd love to hear them.
And we have a website on our ICCB website too, where we have all kinds of resources, and we'll put all of that.
I'm happy to share we hired Tanner Crawford, who had worked with DCO. Supporting the apprenticeship grant right into our program at Heartland. So we're happy to have Tanner.
I wondered what he was doing on the call.
Yep, we got him.
Welcome, Tanner.
I hope to be able to report back soon. We are experimenting with some youth pre-apprenticeships. So
great.
Apprenticeships specifically focusing. We actually got the Taking Back the Trades grant, and part of that is we're going to be running in August a healthcare pre-apprenticeship for high school students. So we're going to see kind of how that goes, and what the other side of that looks like, because obviously they won't necessarily be hired into apprenticeships right away, but it could be the first part of their path. So we will report back to the group how that goes.
And then as we move forward through the year too, we will, as the work group puts our plan for the coming year in place, we will be sharing some of the things we want to accomplish over the coming year, much more presence during apprenticeship week, et cetera. We're looking at mentorships, et cetera. So we'll be talking with all of you about that to bring you into that space as we finalize those plans. So stay tuned.